I think we should go live now, Vijay.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get the paper and share that with you later.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Social Sector Development Dialogues. My name is Vijay Paul, and I'm from Prakalpa Saujanya Foundation, and I'll be the MC for this particular session. The Development Sector Dialogues is a series which happens every 4th Saturday of every month from 5 to 6 p.m. The dialogues are an open platform which hopes to bring thought leaders, social entrepreneurs, grassroots practitioners, social sector professionals engaged with the human and social capital development. While many of us generally know why of and what needs to be done in development sector generally, Dialogues Forum will try to address how part of the equation. These dialogues are to enable knowledge sharing, exchange of ideas, highlighting best practices and experience in solutioning, and finding some answers to common and collective challenges in the social sector organizations. The style of dialogues in terms of conversation and collaborative interactions with thought leaders and practitioners can result in co-creating and co-crafting some of the actionable learnings for everybody in terms of participants. These dialogues sessions are brought to you jointly by We Lead SYM and Prakalpa Saujanya Foundation. Just a brief introduction about We Lead SYM. The Vivekananda Institute of Leadership Development, We Lead, can also be viewed as an acronym for Vivekananda Institute for Leadership, Education and Development, as these are the three core areas of their engagement. We Lead is an initiative of Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement, SYM, which is a development organization engaged in building a new civil society in India through its grassroots policy level action spanning health, education, community development, and capacity building and training. We Lead is an innovative capacity building lab where ideas are spawned, innovations are nurtured, leadership is encouraged. It is also encapsulates within it an exclusive portfolio of products and programs across the themes of leadership, education, and development. We Lead is a place to come to if you are someone looking to incubate your ideas, experiment, build your skill sets, enhance your talent stack, and contribute to the society to make a dent in this particular social sector and development sector. Something about Prakalpa Saujanya. Prakalpa Saujanya in Sanskrit means projects for social goodness. Is a nascent not-for-profit solution Section 8 company launched in October 2021 with the endeavor to provide affordable solution for social sector organization for sustainable outcomes. The initiative had been started by a group of project management professionals chartered with a mission to enable the development sector by applying proven processes with domain expertise, collaborative learning, and technology-driven empowerment. Prakalpa has evolved a comprehensive suite of programs focused on enabling, energizing, and empowering organizations in adopting the practitioner's approach with emphasis on delivery of benefits, impact analysis, and sustainability. Prakalpa believes their initiatives will enable social sector organizations to develop more effective and innovative solutions and bring about the transformational change across the stakeholders. In our previous dialogue sessions, we had luminary leaders who discussed varied topics. We had Dr. Al Balu, a member of Human Resources Capacity Building Commission, Government of India, and he discussed about the roadmap for social sector organization post COVID-19. We had Mr. Praveen Kumar Syaparaju, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Education, SBIM, and NEP 2020 Implementation Task Force, Government of Karnataka member. And there we identified collaboration opportunities around implementation of NEP and how the social sector organizations can engage in the process. And the last episode was with Mr. Prabodh Kulkarni, founder of Sati. He alluded upon building sustainable sectoral social sector organization and leadership transition challenges in NGOs. Most of these sessions have been very well received, and they're all available on YouTube channel, which can be accessed out. Maybe you can ask us if you need to look at them. In today's fourth episode, we are going to debate about very complex and sensitive subject on persons with disability. The question we are attempting to find answers to is, people with disability, what do they need, where we are, and where we need to go. To discuss and converse on this, we have an eminent personality who has worked tirelessly for 2 decades in autism and children with disability area. And I am pleased to welcome and introduce the interlocutors for today's session. First of all, I would like to introduce dear friend Jayashree Ramesh. She has been associated with us for almost last 15-20 years through Rotary and our PMI links. Jayashree Ramesh started her career in the field of special education in the year 1986. She later moved to US to complete her MA Special Education at San Jose State University, California. After a stint of 6 years, she returned to Bangalore and became the founding member of Academy of Severe Handicaps and Autism, ASHA. She is associated with ASHA since its inception in 1995 and currently is the founder director. Jayashree has been holding a lot of positions in decision making and policy making related to this particular subject domain. She is a board member of National Trust, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. She is the founder secretary of Disability Negotiation NGO Alliance and DNA, a consortium of organizations working in Karnataka. She has been the past president Rotary Bangalore West and assistant governor 2013 to 14 in Rotary District 3190. She is the first secretary of Autism Society of India, a national network. Jayashree's passion for families at the center of, in terms of need to solve some of these autism problems, has enabled her to establish Information and Resource Center IRC for autism and other development disabilities with the support of Sharda Peetham, Sringeri, and Rotary Bangalore West. She has set up a Nava Prabhuti Trust, NPT, a vocational center for grown-up children and adults with autism. Currently, there are about 20 students undergoing training. Jayashree has been well recognized and awarded for her efforts in the disability area. She has been the Rotary Foundation Scholar to USA in 1987, recipient of N.D. Diwan Memorial Award 2001 given by NASAO, Mumbai, India. 4 Avenue Service Award from Rotary International. Leo Kanner Award 2008 from Mind Research Center, Salem. Under the leadership, Asha received Best Day Care Center Award from National Trust, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, 2003-2004. That's Jayashree, welcome to this dialogue. And really, we are keen to hear from you, your experiences. Let me introduce the moderator, who is Sujata Sahu. Sujata Sahu is one of the co-founders of Prakalpa Saujanya Foundation. Sujata is a professional with over 20 years of professional experience in product design, leadership, project and program management, business development, strategic business decision-making, multinational companies and SMEs. She has also been associated with professional training. She has a deep interest in understanding the social issues and volunteering for NGOs. She has been involved in drives related to public health, children education, saving environment, and she is also a volunteer associated with PMI Bangalore chapter for almost 7 years. Currently, she is working with as an operational head for Krevavi Technologies, focused in research and development in products for industrial IoT and automotive field. Her previous association has been with Scalfort Engineering, Printronics AG, Toshiba, Republic Polytechnic of Singapore. She holds a degree in electronics engineering and master's in software engineering from National University of Singapore. She is a certified project management professional PMP and holds a ITIL certification. Welcome, Sujata, and thanks for taking on the being the interlocutor for this particular session. And here it is over to you, Sujata. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay sir. Thanks a lot for setting up the stage and all the introductions. So welcome everyone to the fourth program in series of development sector dialogues. Welcome Jayashree, and thanks for accepting our invitation to be part of this program. I want to start with a quote to say that differently ability is not inability, which means that every human has inherent potential that can be nurtured to bring it out. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is, as Vijay sir mentioned, related to a very sensitive and complex part of our society, but a natural and normal part of our lives, though they are differently abled, but normal in their own ways. So we'll talk about their access to constitutional rights in a conducive environment to lead a quality life with dignity, respect, and independence. Similarly, a society has the responsibility to support their growth through education, employment, accessibility to built environment, infrastructure, and assistive technologies, etc. So while government is working and making strategies for the support and empowerment of persons with challenging needs and their integration into family and community life, we believe that NGOs, who are known to be the key drivers in the ecosystem, they play a proactive role in helping them to acquire growth so they can contribute to the development of the country. So let's understand the challenge this path to create an inclusive society. And to the audience, I would request to just keep your question on the chat box. You can type them in chat box, and we will take them as we progress with the dialogue. So, Jayashree, I will. Yes, Jayashree. So I will start with the session with a question which focuses on basically your journey first. How and why you began your journey in this domain, and what is it that inspired you to work towards this cause? What was the goal or purpose that you had in your mind, and of course, how you keep yourself motivated?
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Sujata, and welcome everybody to this session, and thank you so much for participating. Special thanks to Amar and Vijay. When they ask, for me to do a session, I cannot say no, and it's such a privilege to be part of this kind of a dialogue. I see a lot of my colleagues and people who work with me, my team members on this program here today. So thank you very much and welcome. And I also see Baswaraj sir. He's the ex-commissioner for Karnataka State for Persons with Disability Act. Baswaraj sir, thank you very much for being here today. I'll definitely request your assistance when I get stuck when Sujata poses some tough questions for me.
That's it's the area is open to play for you, Jayashree. Yeah, so questions from me, we are here to listen from you.
Right, right. So to come back to your question, I mean, this is one of my very favorite questions. I get to talk about myself. But to tell you that it was not, I mean, nothing very momentous that I had, or there was no aha moment when I got into the field. It was just that I think right out of college, I was always interested to be in a social sector. Healthcare was my first preference. I couldn't get into a medical college. So then it was education. And when I found that I could work with children with special needs, I'm always very, interested to work with kids. And so that was my, choice. And believe me, at that time, I don't think I knew anything. I knew it was just that I like kids. I'm going to be a teacher, in a classroom, and I'm going to just learn and be that. And that's how I think I got in. And then all of the learnings and everything that, I could have done has been a learning on the job, actually. So when I first started, I worked with children with intellectual difficulties. I got interested in children with learning disabilities, which is, dyslexia and dyscalculia. And we could see that when we did the right remediation, the change was dramatic. And parents were happy, children were happy, they liked to be with us. And then I got introduced to this world of autism. And I still remember the first child that I saw way back in, I think, 86, 85, 86. He walked into the room and, nothing made sense to him. No matter what I talked, what I showed him, he just kind of ignored me, and he was just looking at the ceiling fan, and he was like spinning himself and watching the fan. And I'm thinking, what is this? I mean, normally kids take to me like, honey and the bee, but this kid is like totally off. It's like just not focusing, giving me any clue. So that is when I first heard the term autism, and that was not the computer age. And so my mentor and the person who actually guided me in the field of special education is Mrs. Rukmini Krishnaswamy, who is currently the director of Spastic Society. So she had returned from the US and she had seen everything. And then she said, this is a different kind of a problem in children. There's not a lot of information available. You'll have to take it slow. You'll have to start working. You'll have to figure it out as you're, going along. And that's when I came across the Rotary Scholarship, and there was a desire for me to learn more about autism. And one of the things was, in those ages, everybody wanted to go to the US. So that was there. I mean, just go abroad kind of a thing. So that was also part of it. So I was lucky enough to go and also lucky enough to come back. So which is, what I feel. And then having come back after about a couple of years, we realized that autism has started to grow, but still, there were not many services. In fact, Mrs. Krishnaswamy said, why don't you join Spastics and start? But I was at the other end of town, and I had a little daughter by then, so I couldn't do the commute and stuff. So then, it was like, why don't we start something small, something of our own? And I had a good family support. My parents and my in-laws stood by me, and they said, okay, if you want to start something, let's do it the right way, register an organization and do it. So that's how I got into it. And my first year was just 3 children, 1 volunteer. And I know Mrs. Krishnaswamy inaugurated my first space, and that is how we started. And the whole thing was journey. And what keeps me motivated, what keeps me doing is, you're doing it and it doesn't seem to end. The issues are so many, the need is so much, and these children are so different from each other. And so at every step you have to think and say, okay, so what can I do for this and what can I do for that? And so every time it's like, what next? So I can't say that we have reached any great stage where we know everything and we can deliver everything. And what we have understood today is what happens to children with autism and what could possibly be the best way to guide the parents and to also engage the students in a classroom, and who would be the other support systems or the services and the professional expertise that we would need to work with. And healthcare is one that we work very closely with. So I think it's been like that. And I've been very fortunate. One is to also have my own family supporting me, as well as, the people are all around. The people who came and worked with us, the families that we work with, or connect with, established organizations like NIMHANS and St. John's Hospital. I think it's been very positive in terms of my journey. I'm really not aware of how much is the difference that we have made to the families, because their issues are far too great.
Yeah.
So, it is difficult.
Yes.
So that is where we are.
Yeah, that's a very interesting sharing about your journey. So I think we have one video about Asha also. So Ramesh, can I request to play it for our audience?
The world we live in is difficult to navigate. Living with autism makes it even harder. Most of us have heard of autism, but very few know what it means. Autism is a complex development disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact, and often manifests itself in early childhood. At Asha, we seek to educate individuals living with autism and their families while creating a community of support and belonging. What started as a means to assist and educate has now evolved to address various facets of those affected by autism. We strive to provide a comprehensive range of services to suit every individual's need, from full-day primary education focused on life skills training to pre-vocational, parent and professional training. Autism is a spectrum, and our therapies aim to help individuals develop key skills to improve their quality of life beyond education. Our beginnings were humble, but the impact we created was profound. Soon, we were hosting the first integrated summer camp, parent training program, and awareness program for college students, which earned us well-deserved recognition. Slowly, we grew both in size and in reach towards a more global platform. This allowed us to develop new initiatives and programs and create awareness for autism and the lives affected by it. The impact we have created speaks for itself. We constantly strive to create an avenue of growth for the families and individuals living with autism. Everyone who is a part of Asha not only creates an impact but is equally impacted by the change they are bringing to the world around them. If you too want to be a part of this global contribution of making a change that matters, we look forward to hearing from you. No contribution is too small, and everyone is welcome at Asha. Asha is an institute of love, care, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. We owe our growth and continued success not only to our committed volunteers, but to the unwavering support of our donors. Join us in the battle to end stigmas around autism. Together, we can focus on what really matters: the children who need us.
That's all about Asha, and I can see that how much work you have been given and supporting the society, the kids, and the family. So actually, that just makes me think that about the families. We want to understand from you and your experience of working with so many families, that how does it influence them on very first realization of having differently able child and accepting it and then preparing themselves for the life journey. And I believe that you must have came across such situations where you have to deal with this kind of situation with the parents. So we want to understand how it happens, how it goes on.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very hard part actually. See, when children are very young and parents hear for the first time that your child has some kind of a special needs, I mean, it's heart-wrenching. And see, there are some difficulties that it's very visible to the eye, right? If the child is not moving around or the child is got vision impairment, the parent knows right from day one that there is something wrong. But in developmental disabilities, what happens is most of our children look pretty normal and they grow up, quite well in the first few months. So it comes as quite a bit of a shock for the young parent. And the journey thereafter is very hard. To be honest, I don't think any parent, and there are some parents here too, can fully say that we have understood, accepted, and we have moved on, and we are not doing what it is, because the lifestyle is trajectory when children are born at every stage the needs are different, the expectations are different. So initially, the parent has a lot of hope, when the child is young, because the parents are young, there's a lot of energy, they're able to do a lot of things, and they're seeing that there are changes happening in the child. So there is a lot of hope. But as the child gets older, when they start to realize that, oh, okay, maybe my child may not ever go to a regular school, may never be able to complete 10th grade, then the anxiety and other things as to what is going to happen with him or her, where is, what is the education going to be, or what kind of employment, or what is this child's life going to be as an adult. So I think at every stage, when they see children in their neighborhood or see children in their own families, I think, they do tend to feel that their child is not able to do a lot of, those things. So I think here the support systems, have to be really strong. The extended family or the friends network. It is very easy to say accept the difficulties and move on, but unless there are services that are available to them, and especially now, if both the parents have to work, it's very difficult to see how are they going to manage. And in most of the cases, it is the mom, who's professionally qualified herself, maybe doing very well, may have a lot of her own dreams of what she wants to do with her life and her career, will have to give up. And then, suddenly, the path is totally different. The road is so narrow and so full of things. So she's dealing with not only an issue with her child, she wants, of course, the best for the child, and she wishes that she could just, write off the whole problem. But it's also dealing with her own self, what changes she had to make. And nobody around her is so kind to say, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm so sorry you had to give up your career or your life ambitions. And then whether you like it or not, now you have to kind of stay back and, you have to take care of this kid 24/7. It's really not easy. It's really not easy. I'm very inspired by parents, by mothers who don't give up and, who move on, because I feel we have a lot to learn from them. And I don't even know many times where do they get their strength and energy. So, and with fathers, it's a slightly different situation, because we don't get a lot of fathers coming and interacting very regularly. We get fathers when we speak about the finances, or we are talking about some major decisions which they have to make. That is when the father comes, because otherwise all the day-to-day activities is all part of the mother's repertoire. So many times we feel that the fathers have actually not confronted the problem. They've not dealt with it, and it then reflects on their own health. We see many young families, young parents becoming diabetic and hypertensive at a young age. Unless they are able to really sit down and understand and deal with the problem together, we find that the joy in the family has gone away. So, and that is something that they'll have to grapple for a long time. And the only way, the little that we can do as organizations is to play a supporting role and say, we are there. We can never take away your pain, but we can just help you along the way to find your own answers. So it's a very different style. Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually, we have seen in the video, and also you're talking about their education. Also, when the parents realize that they will not be able to go to normal school. So what is there in education, like kind of inclusiveness in education? How is our education system is geared up to handle the schooling and education of these children? Do we have enough schools capable of giving equal the quality education to them? And are there enough qualified teachers with the right mindset to handle holistic development of these children. So what would you like to share about this? I know that you are doing a great job, but apart from that, how about our normal schools or the schools dedicated for special education?
Yeah, I mean, see, one is that we first have to understand the needs of the students, okay? The kinds of services that they would need is if you go from the very lower rung of the ladder, children who are very severely affected, very severely disabled, who may not be able to move around or go out, would require some kind of an intervention at home. So there, of course, from the rural settings and other things, there are people who visit and help the parent understand a little bit. Urban areas, it's even more difficult. But going further than that, you would need 3 or 4 types of services. One is a special school. Special school is for all children cognitively not so bright, who may not do a lot of academic work, who may have to be trained in hand skills, who would need like speech therapy and all of the other adjunct therapies that they need to develop. So you need to have special schools. But now the focus is that of education is, and policies like NEP is saying that every child can be in a mainstream school. We would say, yes, they can, provided we provide the right kind of intervention there. If it is a mainstream school, if it is an inclusive school, if they understand the child, supposing there's a child with autism who's non-verbal in the sense that he has no speech, he may have some understanding of language, but he's not speaking. How are we going to facilitate this child to communicate using assistive technology or any other means of augmented communication? Unless the school or the education program is geared for that, we will not be able to provide what is required for this child. So it's a very complex thing when we say, inclusive education. So we need special environments, we need resource rooms, we need integrated schools, we need inclusive schools. We would need all sorts of educational programs. And in our country, do we have everything? No, we don't. And large metros, much better. As we get into the smaller tier 2 and more at the panchayat, at the taluk level, Baswaraj sir will be able to add very few special schools, very few specialized services. They are in the government run schools. But what is the quality of education that they are receiving? That is something that really needs to be looked into, because there is no way these kids can do. But kids who have vision impairment, cognitively bright, but all they have is, things that they can't see. So assistive technology there. Kids who are hearing impairment to some extent, not as much as the blind students, are able to manage in the mainstream. And you see them going into college, you see them going into workforce, getting jobs in the mainstream and working over there. But it is the ones with intellectual and developmental disabilities that take the brunt. So no, we don't have the right infrastructure, but we're getting there. Things are changing. When I started, we used to hardly find, enough teachers. But today, there are more young people, bright people who've done their MSc in psychology and stuff, wanting to be in the field of special education. But the number is so small. So we have to go a long way. And I feel the only way this is going to break and we will have more teachers is if educating special children is part of the mainstream teacher training programs. If that does not happen, you can't just bring people from the outside and say, fill the gap.
Yeah, right. So you were talking about lots of the policies and there are some policies changes. I can see that there has been a paradigm shift from welfare-based approach to right-based approach. What are the constitutional and policies changes that have taken place over the last few decades? And what is your opinion on progress of ecosystem improvement after these changes? As you said that some changes are coming up and you can see some good things coming up. So what are the progress of ecosystem improvement with these changes?
See, we moved away from the social paradigm into a very rights-based approach when we got the new law. India became a signatory to the UNCRPD, which is the International Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability. We said in letter and spirit, we do believe that every citizen of our country has the same right. Our law, which is, it came out in the end of 2016, 2017, the Rights of Persons with Disability Act also states that, he or she is a citizen and has the right to all whatever anybody else has. Like we are very good at framing policies, now that was almost now 4 or 5 years, of course, 2 years, everything is COVID related. So we've lost that. But I don't see anybody being in a hurry to look at what is this policy saying, what should be the approach, because the central government frames the law, it's the parliament that does it, but it's the state's responsibility to come up with the framework and come up with the schemes and, take it forward in the right spirit. I don't see that. I see that happening very, very little, in small pockets.
So the policies are there, but the implementation is not
implementation
there.
is very, very difficult. Sometimes I feel that, it's like it's nobody's business. Persons with disability is nobody's business. So we get shunted from one department to the other. We are under welfare most of the time. So personally for us, because we work with young children and we focus on education, we would have liked to be under the education department to be able to then make all of the changes, but we are under welfare, women and child. So there's a total disconnect in what we're doing. It is only because I think there are some professionals, well-intentioned people, good large NGOs, who have struggled for years, who want to do, and they are trying their best to do it. But India is a large country, and even for the government to come up with, all sorts of schemes immediately is going to be difficult. But they are doing a little bit, but I think a lot more can happen if there's a concerted effort. So there's no advocacy in disability. I mean, there's very little. We've been trying very hard. Basaraj sir has been behind us. Get together. Now we are saying families can come together. We need strong voice. That is not there yet.
Yeah. So would you like Basaraj sir to...
Yes, I would like to. Sir, can you please add something to this? What is your feel of I know he's part government, so I can't say. But
no, I'm no more part of the government. So
I know, but you have the other side. So.
Sure.
Thank you, Basaraj, for joining us. Yeah.
I fully echo what Mrs. Jayashree said. But the point is, the government intentions are always good. Government can allocate money. Government can appoint staff. But like you rightly said, the ecosystem is the biggest issue. The very poor understanding, and most of the time, they only do it for a short period. So there's no long-term vision. And the investment on infrastructure, being it as a decent place for parents to come, and also, kind of a transparency, kind of a space, what they need to create, there the investment has to happen. See, today, I think they are trying to invest only on a day-to-day kind of an operational kind of issue. I think sector as a whole, we need a lot more upfront investment so that family, professionals, and the larger society look at this issue is, we are, gear up to manage this. This is not something that's going to be difficult. I think that the kind of positivity we need to give. I think, in my opinion, only it could happen when the parent bodies have a lot more say in the matter. Today, most programs, because I'm also part of the government, I'm looking at, from both sides. Most programs are designed to what suits to their convenience, the professional convenience, and what suits to that 5 to 10, 10 to 5 kind of a situation. But life is not like that. So therefore, I think we need to hear the voice of the parents, we need to design the program that really going to impact the real life change. And I think that can only happen when parents who are really affected, the primary stakeholders and like-minded organizations like Asha, Jayashree, and all of us can start really join hands and push forward this thinking. Mere allocation of funds, mere appointing staff will not really take us too far, and it's delay the process. So therefore, I think early investment and early intervention, and like rightly pointed out by Jayashree, we need to closely work with health, Department of Health for prevention, and health also have the ownership of rehabilitation. Unfortunately, rehabilitation still yet to take off in our country. Still, it's the responsibility of NGOs, responsibility of the parents. The state is not still owning the responsibility of rehabilitation. I think that is where the shift has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Basavali sir. So I was also going through some reports and like Department of Empowerment of PWD, that the vision is to build an inclusive society, as just now mentioned, in which equal opportunities are provided for the growth and development of persons with disabilities, so that they can lead productive, safe, and dignified lives through, as Basaraju sir shared about the rehabilitation. So that could be physical rehabilitation, educational, economic rehabilitation, and social empowerment. And for that, I believe skill development is something that is really required. So how do the skill development programs sponsored by either state government, central government, and the NGOs, they're able to improve the employability? So can you just throw some light on it?
Yeah, things are much better, getting better compared to what it was a couple of years ago. I know the Skill Development Corporation also has looked at, in fact, they've looked at autism also quite closely. It's still in the programs that the government is putting it out. With the population that we work, we still feel that there's a disconnect. But this is something that we can definitely work on. It's not that we can't do. But what I think is more important is also we have to invest in the education. So because if children don't have access to education, then the vocational training and employment and those things become even more difficult. So we have to first make sure that in their early years, it's been very productive and there's no loss of time. See, we tell parents, by the time the child is 8 or 10 years, your child must know how to eat, must know how to bathe, how to clothe, how to do, because those are the critical things which you can't teach later. But we all missed that bus and we're still struggling in teaching these kind of basic skills. Then where do you think of vocation and those, So our programs have to be geared and designed, and definitely we need to have a very scientific approach to this. We know about the brain, we know brain development, how it happens and what is the age and what kind of stimulation needs to happen. We don't have very good programs. See, for the government things, we have Anganwadis. There's access for children of all ages of, I think, 4 or 5 years, but they do have access to that. But the Anganwadi teachers there have to be trained and they have to be actually given the support. It's not enough to just say, okay, there are children with disability, now you have to train them. You have to understand their realities and try and support them. And then at the entry level, it is so difficult for families because if they go to a private school, two schools will say the same thing. And then getting them admitted, and then you need all of these other therapies. So it's a big complex mess we are right now in when it comes to education. If we can just streamline that and make sure children get the services they need, then vocation becomes much better. But in Karnataka, because of our Disability NGOs Alliance, a lot of our NGOs, a lot of us are working together to make employment a possibility. So those are some very nice stories that others can emulate and follow. And so I think it's a good way forward, but there's lots of work to be done on the ground.
That's so that's the reality. Like, we still have to do a lot for the skill development front. But Jayashree, there is another, like you're talking about taking care of them from the beginning, early intervention. So I believe they need a lot of healthcare support as well. And how is the accessibility to healthcare? Do we have enough healthcare and rehabilitation facilities available to support their specific needs? Specific, they could have different needs, and are they affordable?
No, that is the sad part, because see, 0 to 3 years at least, if the healthcare providers can focus totally and make sure the child gets all of the services, and then later on whatever is only required, if that that happens, it's great. But what happens here is that children need, they need dental care, they need eye care, they would need an orthopedic care. So it's very difficult, for families to go to 10 different people and sensitize all of these doctors, and for the service also to be easy for families to think. Because I'll just tell you, when we did vaccinations, okay, during COVID, they said that people with disabilities also were allowed after age of 18. Okay, at one time, when they started giving vaccinations for 18 plus, it was so convenient when the vaccination camps were run in the organizations, because it was easy to manage the students. The ones that did not want to take the injections were handled by people who knew how to handle it. There was no waiting time. It was just our people, so there was no worry about who's going to say what to the parents. The parents were really at ease to get the vaccinations done. Whenever we run a dental checkup camp or an eye camp in the school premises, it is so simple and so easy. But to go to a public place and to access, you can ask any parent here, it's a nightmare, because their needs are not recognized. So they still have to wait in long lines, and our students cannot do that. It becomes very difficult. And then the people handling special needs, not all of them are aware of the problems. So that sensitization is so important. How do you talk to a child with special needs? How do you calm the families down? As it is, they are so stressed out. That doesn't happen. And imagine if the child has to go through a surgery, or needs hospitalization. My God, at one time, when they said that COVID is going to really overtake in the after the second wave, they said the third is going to be, children are going to be affected. So literally, in Rotary and other spaces, we had so many of discussions that if children with autism get COVID, what kind of a setup are we going to have? Where are we going to keep them? How you quarantine them for 12 days, 10 days? With the parent has to be allowed, and child-friendly COVID centers. We're so glad we didn't have to go through that, but it would have been a very difficult time if that had happened. So we have yet to go. See, there is awareness. Now the law is making sure that because every child is certified, so the doctors there need to know about the disability, need to know how to issue the certificate. So some level of understanding is coming, but lot more, because I know developmental pediatricians who are in the field will themselves say that there's not enough awareness among their own community. So it's not me, an outsider, saying it. They themselves say it's the same.
Yeah. So when you already said that healthcare system is not enough, so I'm just wondering, like disability can be by anything, by birth, accident, disease, age related. So early identification of disability is crucial for any intervention, early intervention, or to reduce the disability. Early detection, I understand that early detection of at-risk cases and appropriate rehabilitation at early stage of life can reduce the severity or occurrence of disability. Maybe I was reading somewhere that it can reduce by 50%. And also, if you look at data, that urban disability is 30%, rural disability is 69%, which is more than double. So you can see an obvious difference, and may also show link with, I think, poverty level too. And I'm hopeful that India is doing good, and it's trying to improve everything. But how are we addressing root cause for elimination, especially in rural areas? And what are the initiatives being taken at government and NGO levels to apply preventive measures, including community awareness? So I think that is some part. Have you started some work there? Are we doing something?
Basavat sir, do you want to answer that? You can unmute and I'll throw some light on that. Yeah, you can unmute, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and thank you for raising that question. Well, I think right now the ownership issue, the disability predominantly with welfare ministry and whatever they call empower ministry. I think the health department, there are about 17 programs which are supposed to address many of the disability related issues. Some are preventive, some are in terms of detection and early intervention, and some are curative. Unfortunately, they work as standalone programs. So there is a very little coordination among the different departments, and the data capturing is also not happening because we are very weak. So therefore, there is some work that is happening, but then we are not able to really get the maximum benefit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree that one of the best program, what is called as RBSK, Rashtriya Bharat Swasthya Karyakram, 0 to 18 years, we screen every children from 0 to 18 years for about some 37 different kinds of conditions. So most of it on disability prevention, early detection, identification, surgical intervention, so on and so forth. But on paper, it's extremely good. And like you rightly said, we could really prevent more than 50% of disability. At least we can reduce disability. And but unfortunately, the training component for these doctors are very, very poor. So therefore, although the program is about 10, 12 years old, still we don't see the benefit of that particular program. Money being spent. It's not that money is not being spent. And therefore, I think the state, Government of India program this is, the state has hardly any ownership. So I think because we don't have such a forceful voice at the both national level to combine some of these efforts, I think at the design level they're extremely good. At the implementation they're very poor. We're not able to capture and present what is the kind of changes we want, how it could impact the greater number of people's life. Thus, providing some kind of relief, some kind of future for the parents. I think that is the major concern that we need to have. So certainly, I think we need to many of us start work with the health department directly, and maybe co-work with them, because the rehabilitation understanding is so poor. And any doctor, they're all looking at from a curative perspective, and they don't have any belief or understanding rehabilitation can play a very major role and make this person productive, and it's good for the larger country to be able to reduce the burden on the family and to the society as a whole. I think that's the reality.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, Jayashree, I think in the beginning we were talking about assistive technologies also. And yeah, of course, there are so many things coming up. Lots of the research is happening. So how do you see the adoption of technologies in the next few years? And how will it enhance the quality of life in addition to this?
Definitely. I mean, there's a huge need and also lots of opportunities now to bring in assistive technology. Of course, everything is boils down to economics, because I know, we had a meeting with where Vijay Paul was there, where IIT people have all come together. They've developed mobility devices. There's a lot of other this thing for visually challenged people, to help them read the text. Even for autism, we have enormous number of communication apps that are software and apps, and many people showing a lot of interest in trying to design, teaching software programs. It is there. It is definitely there. But, the disconnect we saw, especially during COVID, is everybody wanted to start digital classes for children, and we had to all go online because of COVID. And there we realized that not all families can afford devices.
Yeah.
So, and we are telling them, it's okay, you have a smartphone, we can use a smartphone and do. So we are okay trying to teach children in such a chota screen, and then say for half an hour, 45 minutes, children have to view that. So unless we make hardware accessible to people, and more families and more institutions, I won't even go up to families, even institutions today, not all of them can afford to have laptops in the classroom, especially special schools I'm talking about. And government is doing a lot in terms of setting up smart classes and helping them, and even from Rotary we did lots of donations of different things, but special schools are nowhere in the picture. So the same government is not setting up smart classes in special schools, so the access is first of all very limited. Second thing is that the intellectual, the academia that needs to invest in understanding, what is the neuroscience, what is the psychology, what is the education. There's no educational research, or even if it is there, it's very limited, and in terms of what it is. So there is a huge potential, no doubt, but it's not enough that you develop a device. It is how will you reach it to the end user. So that means you have to do your marketing, you have to build your case, and then you go back. So it all boils down to the affordability finally. So whether we are there. But I was just sharing it with one of the professors, think that there is a big science and technology institute that's been set up in Srinagar, first of its kind. Just yesterday, I or somebody shared it on on WhatsApp. So it says India's first Center for Technology Intervention for the Elderly and Disabled. This is in Srinagar. So I mean, that means people are thinking about it. So there is a lot of interest, and I'm thinking. I think many of the tech companies are very interested to become more inclusive and to support. And so it is there. But India is a huge country, and we have good spaces, and we are if you go to North Karnataka, I mean, I don't even know how we can take technology there. So but it's a great market. I think some regular investment is required.
So in the interest of time, Jayashree, I would like to know from you briefly about the funding. I know it's a very huge area, but what are the options that NGO like yours are getting funding from, corporate, philanthropic, donations, CSR, etc. And how are you managing to continue this? Maybe the quick short answer. I know it's hard to.
Yeah, I know. See, we are one of the lucky ones. Because one, we were based in Bangalore, and then we had a good network, so we're kind of updated. I've been fortunate to interact with things. I've attended PMI classes for the longest, and I know what project management little tidbits. So we were able to put a lot of things in place, how to write proposals. So to that extent, we've been lucky in getting some support from corporates under the CSR. I'm not, there is some support from the state government also now for institutions, and it's not really a small amount. They're, pretty much giving a good amount, but teachers, need to be paid, much better in any of those schemes that are there. And of course, families have to pitch in. But, the smaller organizations and organizations in smaller towns and cities who don't have access to these CSR funding into these corporates, I understand that many of them had to shut services after COVID, and many of them are finding it very difficult to revive. There is a lot of money under different schemes within the government. Basavaraj sir has explained that as allocations, but reaching it and making sure that you get it on time is a big challenge. But there is money. There is money as per their own orders and circulars. In fact, BBMP also has recently put out that, I think they have almost, I don't know the exact amount, sir will know, but to the tune of some crores that is there available. In fact, I'm asking all my families to now start writing those who need support. So there is there, but again, it's the last mile connectivity. We have to handhold, write proper SOPs, and then push. And then if it happens, then more people will follow suit.
Yeah. Thank you, Jayashree. Since we are towards the end of the session, I would like to have some questions are raised by audience. So I think Ms. Neelam Tiwari is asking, what's your plan to spread awareness in community and make them come forward and make this inclusive world? Now, the most corporates are working towards D&I reaching government, private corporates in pipeline. I think some part is answered by Basavaraju sir. Would you like to add into this something?
The awareness, what happens is most of us do awareness and we do it more like an event. There is a World Disability Day or there is a Autism Awareness Day, some such thing, Children's Day. And then we go and we try and do a run here and a march over there, or give a few brochures here and there. But it's not making the dent because it's not a sustained campaign. So we have now designed a sustained campaign. It's called Now Get In. I'll share some details on how people can get involved. But yes, it is very, very important that we do sustained campaigns and awareness programs for different target groups. It could be for school children, it could be for the medical staff, it could be, even the other essential services like, we have the police and the law and, higher education. We have so many areas where people need to hear about disabilities. But it can all happen if we just start good inclusive education programs. People will become aware right from children, that level. But it is not there. But mainstream media carries a lot. In fact, I would like, I've shared a trailer of a film with Vijay. Maybe you can play that later. It's a Kannada film that is now talking about autism. I mean, it's got its melodrama because it's a film. It's, but, the message goes across. It's the struggle of a mother and understanding autism and what to do for her child. So such things are required and more such, programs have to happen. But it is not just the responsibility of the NGOs to be doing that. So let me be very clear, because they say you have to do. We are a center, we are a school. We can focus on education. If you have to start working on policy, we have to start working on awareness, we have to start working on all of the other things, and we can't do our core activity. So we need more people to come forward and take on these activities.
Yeah. There is another question from Ms. Kavya. And she's asking, we would like to provide disabled-friendly equipment and essential healthcare services at the doorstep of the victims. Could you provide us the like-minded organizations and CSRs to help them? So I think it is more like one-to-one. You can connect later on.
Please write to us or connect with us and we'll see what we can do together. But thanks for that. Yeah.
Yes. So we are just end of this session. So before we end this session, I just have one question in mind. See, PWD need a very supportive environment. However, in any society, there would be different attitudes of different people. What do you advise to our audience in order to create an environment of empathy, sympathy, behavioral changes? So, for example, who should wait at the road of crossing, differently abled or fully enabled? Do we in our society practice yield for others? Is this imparted as part of our upbringing culture? What is your opinion?
Yeah. You know what it is. The apathy on the road. Yes. But we all forget that we are able-bodied only for that many years. As we get older, we will also realize that we can't walk, we can't talk, we will need somebody's support. And then we'll only crib saying that footpaths are bad, this is bad, that is bad. There's a huge population of senior citizens who are also not able to enjoy life. Yeah. It's not just the disabled people. But I think as a community, we Indians are, very good with chalta hai attitude. It's okay, it's okay, solpa adjust madi, it's okay, we will see, next maybe tomorrow. Nobody is putting their foot down and say, I'm seriously thinking of starting a campaign where we would say we will all do a lockdown for a day against the government to say Bangalore infrastructure is going to dogs. Nobody is going to work for a single day, and let's see what happens to the revenue, of that for one day. We have to take some strides. Otherwise, nobody is happy. See, we can't access parks. We can't access roads. We can't, it's really very bad. But if one question on your point on the attitude, I think that is the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
That is the problem. The
Yeah.
teacher in the mainstream class says, I can't do this for this child. The doctor comes over there and says, I can't do this for the special child. Parents are anyway no choice. They have to do that. If you go to the government, they'll say, disability. Regular people only are not getting jobs, madam. What you're coming and asking for disability? This one officer had told me. I'm not even joking. One secretary level officer said, regular people are not getting jobs. What are you coming and asking for vocational service for your children? So, this is the kind of attitude. For everything, first, we are very good at saying no, no, and then block the road.
Yeah.
No open ways for communication to understand. So I always tell my staff, no, question of no is not there. First, identify what the possibilities are. There's always a solution to the problem. So I think our attitude really needs to change. And then we'll have a much better life, not just for people with disability, for us in general. For us in general, we'll have a much better,
I think, to add to you, Jayashree ma'am, what I say is, I think culturally, we need to sort of, devise ways to get into the system. I think right now, we're not looking from a cultural angle.
Correct.
How do we sort of bring in these elements right from a childhood to every family, Unfortunately, our textbooks and all that, they're so, sort of, they talk about rockets, they talk about, all other things. They don't talk about day-to-day life.
Yes.
They don't talk about
values.
they don't talk about what kind of environment or ecosystem that we need to with the neighbors. I think we need to go back to our roots and go back to our original thing. I'm not telling that rockets and technology is not important. They are important. I think they come later. But first, as we are human, and first we need to do a part of the duty as citizens. And most importantly, I think we're becoming too individualistic. We are not, society centric. And I think more and more, shift has to happen from a society centric perspective, right from the family level to the immediate institutions to the community level. Then you imbibe those values and those, early age things. Things will change. I think I'm the one who is very positive. I think we are just moved out of the track. I think we should come back to the track. And all our elders had this, whatever the little they had, but they had that sympathy. They had, within their means they were providing. So we have everything today, but unfortunately, no attitude. I think that we have to mend it.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Thank you, Jayashree. So it had been a wonderful talking to you regarding all the challenges, and I understand a lot of things to be done, but not only by government NGOs, but with everyone. So we need everyone's support in terms of attitude, empathy, everything. Thank you very much. Thanks again for this wonderful session. And I hand over to Ramesh now for the notes.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jayashree. Thanks,
before you start, you can show the trailer of the movie which Jayashree talked
Great,
about.
great.
Very
Yeah.
sensitive.
Yeah.
I request the audience to just stay back for another 5 minutes, and we will. It's a very sensitive movie. I think it's a worth seeing. And then Ramesh, please do the vote of thanks.
Yeah, but before I get to the vote of thanks, I think I know that we've already pushed the envelope in terms of time, but I think Mr. Sampath did want to get a question in. So, Mr. Sampath, you would like to quickly get that question, then we could perhaps go to the trailer and then,
Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh. I'm not coming on video, not because of anything else, just I somehow don't believe in it. But I must say thanks to Jayashree and Basavaraj, I have observed them. They may not recollect me, but I have been associated with PWD in some indirect way for a long time, starting with SVYM and subsequently with Enable India and also RT Lab Foundation and Kili and so many organizations. Most of them, and of course, the person who has been inspiration for all many and is Mrs. Rukmini herself.
Sure.
In the entire discussion today, my only one question to both Jayashree and Basavaraj is, are we thinking, I think towards the end, Basavaraj alluded to it, saying that rekindling our own cultural roots in order to address this problem differently. But I'm just saying, are we approaching this problem using a model which is more mechanistic and perhaps not suited to our environment? And I am sure that it is not something big which you two would not have thought of, who have been there for 30 years in this field. And you might have done something innovative which is rooted here, and it has sparked off much better. So I thought one or two such examples would really enthuse people to tell about, how even a Goliath can be handled by a David.
Yeah.
So I thought one or two such examples would have been good, but we have time pressure. I can completely understand. If it's okay, we can take it now, Jayashree. Otherwise, there are plenty of opportunities. I'm sure later on we can take it from there as well, whichever way you would like to go about it. But I must say, this has been one of the very comprehensive view as to a person who got involved, got into the real act. And I think you may be modest, but people like me who have observed from outside, both you and Basavaraj can tell you that your achievements are not modest in that sense for a country of India's size. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sampath. I think, like we've been saying, I think this has been a wonderful conversation, and I want to take this opportunity. I leave the trailer because we leave the best for the last, so I'll close with the trailer. But what I wanted to thank all of you. I think Jayashree for having shared your thoughts today, and I could get the passion as well as the angst that is there in terms of what has happened and also how much more still needs to happen. And I think this conversation has left me with more questions than I had at the beginning of the conversation. And that is in keeping with all good conversations, I suppose. And Mr. Basavaraju, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about about the fact that maybe we need to look through our own cultural lens in order to find solutions that are more suited to our own cultural frameworks, and a culture that accepted Ashtavakra and Vishpala in ancient India should surely be able to find solutions that are more embedded in the cultural architecture of this country itself, rather than look at because I think the fundamental issues of governance and structural deficits continue to haunt this particular area as well as it does several other areas in our governance models. So I also want to thank Sujata for having conducted a fabulous conversation. Thanks also to the team at Prakalpa. Thanks to the SVYMV lead team as well, Amar, Vijay, Bala, and all of you for making this happen. We have 4 conversations into this series, and I think we've been doing some wonderful conversations. So thank you everyone for coming, and please do watch this trailer that we'll be sharing.
Thank you.